was on Anzio Beachhead, which is in Italy, you know, one of the fiercest battles. And every single kid came back. Not one single person was killed. But I was trying to think. I remember when Roosevelt was killed. That was not killed when he died.
Right.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. I was trying to think what else, but it was like at our house, it was like conversation around the table. You know,
I guess
we
they
talked
heard, they got their news from radio.
Well, we did not, because we had no electricity.
Okay, good. Right.
So we had a radio, and if we
Battery operated.
we'd have to take the battery out of the car and bring it into the house and hook it up to the radio, and then it was mostly just static. And, you know.
Right.
So most of ours came from magazines and newspapers.
Okay.
I was aware that FDR was the president, but it didn't, make a big impact on me. But I do remember, the headlines in the newspaper when it said Dewey defeats Truman. And they had jumped the gun, and Truman actually got elected president. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In our family, Roosevelt, was an important name because Eleanor Roosevelt's first cousin, she and her husband bought my grandfather's farm there in Avon, Connecticut, and the Alsops, and they lived across the street from my grandparents. So Mrs. Roosevelt would come often to visit Mrs. Alsop there because they were really good friends, and and they were cousins too.
Yeah.
So it was like the Roosevelt was somebody we knew, which of course
Family friend.
we didn't know.
Kind of neat stories about any of those.
When I was in Peleachi High School in the 9th grade, the YMCA director for the state of Mississippi came by and wanted to organize a Hawaii club. And the principal wanted it, and so we had a Hawaii club. And the boys had a choice. You go to chorus or you go to Hawaii, so we had a big Hawaii. The next year we moved to Canton, they didn't have a Hawaii, and I started it. And in 1947, the YWCA and the YMCA nationally had a youth conference out in Grinnell College, Grinnell, Iowa. And I was one of 5 boys from Mississippi that went out there. And it was at this event that I decided I want to do what I'm going to do with my life. And I was a sophomore in high school, and I wanted to have something to do with the Hawaii program. And it took me 12 years later to get there, to work, to get through college. And then in order to be a YMCA director, you had to have certain educational courses, and there was only 3 colleges in the United States where you could get them all. You could get them through summer school, by going about 10 summers. So I elected to go to Springfield College, Springfield, Massachusetts, where I could get that and get my master's degree. So we went to Springfield. And I had no financial help at all going to college. I paid my own way, and we working at the post office, I built up a little retirement. So I withdrew that and bought a trailer that the World War II veterans had moved in on the campus, and we bought a trailer for $400, and we lived there for the year. And then when the spring came and they started, students looking for jobs, the YMCA nationally would send in people to interview those people who wanted to go in the YMCA. And we had a fellow from the South, and he said there was going to be an opening in Mississippi. So that excited me, and it never came about. And I interviewed for a couple of jobs up in Connecticut and was offered one, and I was still holding out trying to come back south. And Ruth was putting a lot of pressure on me. We need to take a job, So anyway, so I just sent word to the people down in the South that they didn't have anything. I was going to stay up there, and almost immediately, someone from Virginia came up and interviewed me and hired me, and they opened up an office in Ruthville, Virginia, and I traveled all of Southwest Virginia for 3 years, and then he left, and then they promoted me up to for the board, elected me to be the executive, in 1962 for Virginia, so that's where I stayed for the next 30 years.
62, so you retired in 82.
Yeah, 92.
92.
And we lived in Whitfield for 3 years, and then when this job came open, we moved to the Lynchburg area. We could not find housing that we could afford in Lynchburg, and so we found a house out here in Rustburg, and that we could afford, and we moved out here, and that was another great decision that came our way because of something else we couldn't afford. Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Growing over there.
So you're back. So you'd gone to school. Of course, kind of go through then when you had your children and.
Well, of course, you were born in 1953, and it was 5 years, and then North was born in 1958, and he
was
was
born where?
in Jackson, and when he was 2 days old, I guess, or less than a week old, Fulton left to go to Springfield College, and he drove up, and when North was, I think, 2.5 weeks old, very young, we flew, Adam, you and North, and I flew up to the Hartford Airport, and that's where we lived for the.
Were there 5 years between Cal and North because you weren't ready for more, or that just that what happened, or?
Well, I really had a miscarriage between those two, but it just didn't happen. Really, the pill had not been discovered or whatever yet, and there were other ways of birth control, but they were not very satisfactory. So, and then of course, Sally and Amy came immediately after North, so Sally was born in Whitfield. Amy was born in Whitfield while we were there the 3 years the two girls were born.
So Sally was born in 60.
And Amy in 62.
And they were about how many months apart?
No,
18
18 months.
19.
Right. Right.
He said, like, it's not very exciting over here.
Yeah, Amy was only less than 2 months old when we moved to Rustburg, yeah, in 1962.
Less than 6 months?
Less
Oh,
than
yeah.
2 months.
2 months.
She was born in
very-
May, and we moved here the 1st of July, so right.
Yeah. So, Amy was born in a little clinic there was a little clinic went up the steps beside the Leggett store there in Whitfield. And she was born, and it was just a long room, and all the ladies having babies were in that room. Fortunately, I was the only one having a baby that day, so I had the whole room by myself.
Sally was born at a little hospital there in Whitfield. It was a Seventh-day Adventist, owned and operated. And they didn't believe in eating meat, so I had to sneak hamburgers in the roof. Because then you'd stay in the hospital at least 3 days, maybe five, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had to sneak hamburgers in for her to have a little meat.
Well, when you first came to Rustburg, then you